a big welcome to Matthew. Matthew is CEO of AI Caramba, and he's also a leading AI strategist with 15 years in tech and a decade in AI. He's delivered 250 talks globally, 250 plus talks globally. He's shaping AI standards as a member of the BSI and ISO AI committees. He was awarded the 2023 UK Tech Visionary Award. He advises over 50 public broadcasters and serves on the £100 million Innovate UK BridgeAI Advisory Committee. Blakemore is also advisory group. Sorry, we missed a word. He is also the AI Programme Director at Mindstone and lectures at the National Film School of Denmark. His expertise drives impactful AI solutions worldwide, so welcome to the stage.
Thanks. I think you've set the expectation quite high now, so I hope I can live up to it. Did none of you get the memo that it was Oktoberfest? Like, seriously? Okay. So I'm really excited to be here today. I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit about the creative sector and some of the developments we've seen this year and some of the challenges of the sector too. But I was going to give myself an introduction, and I kind of feel like it's all we covered, so I'm just going to jump over that. But the first thing I'm going to do is talk a little bit about Innovate UK and the BridgeAI program, because it could be useful to some of the businesses in this room today, and it's a really valuable program. So just to give you a bit of background, in case you have never come across Innovate UK before in your life, it's part of UKRI, which unifies 7 research councils, Research England and Innovate UK. And the objective of Innovate UK is to support business-led innovation, to drive productivity and economic growth, and to help businesses develop new ideas and connect businesses with UK's research base. You may have applied for grants through Innovate UK before, but they do offer a lot more than just that. And actually, the BridgeAI program is there to really support AI adoption, but also upskilling and other things within your business. So AI is expected to have a significant impact on the UK economy. But the reason why BridgeAI was set up was because that certain sectors were kind of lagging behind on adoption, and we could see real opportunities there. And so what we've done is established this BridgeAI program. They've brought in experts from around the UK, from the core sectors, which are agriculture, creative industries, construction, transport, logistics, and brought us all together so that we can work on strategies and a program that can actually be useful for those companies. And the creative industry alone, which we're going to be talking a little bit about today, actually generates over £108 billion a year for the UK economy and employs 2.3 million people. So you can see why it's a big priority for the United Kingdom to really focus on ensuring that our creative industries stay ahead of the competition. So what does the program include? So it's including connecting businesses with AI experts. So what we found is a lot of companies want to adopt AI, but don't necessarily have the internal expertise and struggle to know where to get started. And so we provide that support. Develop trusted AI technology. So we're all about ensuring responsible implementation within companies, and we can help point them to standards as well. We are all about the elevating high-growth sectors where there's a real opportunity to grow the AI adoption. And we're also addressing AI standards gaps. So we're working with the BSI to look at the existing standards for businesses and determining where the gaps are, which would be helpful to guide businesses through this transition. Upcoming opportunities. So next year, or this year actually, sorry, there are actually a couple of programs that have been running. There's the Future Scope High Growth AI Accelerator, which was all about bringing SMEs together, because small to medium-sized enterprises often need a little bit more support than the larger companies. And it was a 14-week accelerator to develop products and enhance their market readiness and promote responsible AI applications. And we've also had feasibility studies as well. And then other examples of how we've supported businesses. So we've looked at business transformation and how companies can increase their adoption using a toolkit that we've put together with Digital Catapult. And we thought about operationalizing ethics in AI because obviously ethics is an area which, again, we're going to cover a little bit later, but where companies don't always know where to get started. AI governance can be quite tricky. So yes, definitely check out Innovate UK BridgeAI if you haven't already. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of the positive developments we've seen for the creative industries in AI, some of the AI challenges, and then areas where there are significant problems. And this is constantly updated, and I look at this on a regular basis because fundamentally, the pace of change in the AI sector at the moment is incredible. And for the creative industries, it's really quite tricky to stay on top of everything. And so I try, when I'm doing my public speaking or going into companies, to actually provide people with a bit of an updated overview of where we're at. So, AI's positive developments. We've seen a lot of progress in content creation. It's not been without controversy, of course, because of how some of the models have been trained. But fundamentally, it's unlocked opportunities for many creatives. It's provided many individuals with the tools to enable them to actually deliver on ideas they've had for a long, long time and maybe didn't have the financial support to be able to do it. If we break it down into the specific areas, you've got image creation. Now, you may be surprised to hear that through these AI generative tools, 34 million images are generated a day. I don't know how many of those are good images because, from my perspective and from my experience, if you want to get an image that actually delivers what you're looking for at the moment, you still have to maybe produce 3 to 4, 5 possibly images to actually find the right fit. But overall, we've got 30 billion images. And that's obviously a lot of compute and a lot of power. And one of the things that is constantly mentioned at the moment is sustainability and how we can make these models more sustainable. And actually, one of the key things about this is as the models improve and as the natural language understanding improves, we should be able to get to the point that it can actually deliver the image you want in 1 or 2 goes, which would obviously significantly cut the number of images you would need to generate. We've seen a lot of progress in the quality of the images. So if we take an image from Midjourney last year, October 2023, the quality was good, but it didn't look like a photo. And then if we compare that to the new Flux 1.1 model that came out this October, you can see it looks far more realistic. And actually, it was quite interesting because there are always people that are very anti-AI, whether it's logical or not. And I had a conversation with one online, and they were like, oh, you can always tell if it's an AI image. You can always tell. I was like, okay. And I set them a test. I said, okay, these are 2 images. Which one of these is AI generated? And they said, oh, well, it's clearly the girl. The guy is a photo. Well, they are both AI generated images. And so I was kind of trying to make the point that the technology has advanced so much now that it's actually quite difficult to tell, in some cases, the difference between a photograph and the image. And that's why we've got broadcasters and other companies working on C2PA, which is a program, for example, to demonstrate where an image has come from. Because it's going to become increasingly important, especially in politics and other things, to know whether the image is real or AI generated or not. And then we've got Gen AI music. So Gen AI music, one of the more controversial areas, mainly because the major record labels are not fans at the moment, and largely because the best tools have been trained on their data. But putting that to one side, the quality of the music that can now be produced by the likes of Suno and Udio is outstanding. We've gone from, in 2023, being able to generate instrumentals to being able to generate full songs. And the full songs now are extremely good. This is a clip from one song. Bear in mind, actually, that this video was put together with the Runway 2 model. And I'm going to show you later a clip put together with the latest Runway model, and you'll see the significant leaps we've had even in the last few months.
She chases likes more than Dutch ride bikes. She needs attention to feel a connection. Look at her socials and her life is heaven, yet behind it all it's a false impression. Sets the straps throughout her day. With every approval she drifts away, like a detective searching for affection. She's chasing hearts in every direction. Her pulse must go viral or she begins to spiral. She begins to spiral. Tap, tap, swipe, swipe, anything for a like. Her life's not her own, attached to her phone. She's a meme, is she free? Is this who she wants to be? Dancing queen, addicted to dopamine.
But enough about Gen Z. I also thought about, because I seem to be the only person who got the memo, this is supposed to be Oktoberfest. So I thought, what can I do today? And I tried to use a combination of models yesterday, and I did this within maybe 4 hours. And I was like, what are the ingredients for a popular Oktoberfest song? So I used Perplexity to do a bit of research, found out all the core components of a good song. And then I thought, well, what topic can I do it on? Because it needs to be something that kind of links Munich and London. And I was thinking, could I do Prince Albert because he married Queen Victoria? But I thought, no, that's too out of date. And then I thought, I know what's relevant. We've got a Bavarian in charge of the England team. So I thought some of the press was a little bit bad as well, because it wasn't his fault that we needed to turn to Germans to win anything. So I thought I would create a song for him. And it will be on Spotify, so you can use the QR codes to get to it. But I've got a 1-minute clip from it here, and
der Tucherkeit, ein Prosit, der Tucherkeit. From Unix pitch to Wembley's class, Tuchel's here to kick some lederhosen traded for a suit, Bavarian brain in English boots. Tuchel, raise your stein, BMW to the goal line, England's got 2 kings, no lie, German touch will reach the sky. Vice was power, English heart, Tuchel gives us a fresh start, Bavaria's best for England's gain, Tuchel's here to end our pain. Prost, Tuchel, raise your stein, BMW to the goal line, England's got 2 kings, no lie, German touch will reach the sky. Und wir singen Head the ball, kick it high, save the goal, Tuchel's our guy. La 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 la.
so yeah, that's next week's #1. And I just wanted to show the fact that you can create something really quite good within a short period of time now using these tools. And then we moved on to audio, and by that I mean speech, really. And obviously we've seen significant advancements in the ability to clone people's voices. And that brings in some ethical challenges, because it's never really been something we've had to worry about in the past. And so the ability to copyright your voice or to claim when people use your voice currently really isn't there in some territories. And so I wanted to show this. I actually made this video when I was doing a presentation at the Media and Entertainment Services Alliance, and I knew the BBC were there. And I was trying to wind them up a little bit, and it did succeed. But I wanted to show the sort of things we need to bear in mind when using this technology.
Perched majestically above the meandering rivers of Borneo, 3 great hornbills sit in solemn assembly, their vivid plumage a stark contrast against the dense canopy. Their tranquil repose is soon enlivened by the arrival of the mythical gliders, or paper-plane birds, embarking on their annual pilgrimage to these hallowed grounds. With wings folded in delicate precision, these fantastical avians glide silently through the air, converging on Borneo in a spectacle of aerial grace. Beneath the aerial dance of the gliders, the submerged city of Atlantis stirs to life, hosting the grand assembly of the fish kingdom. Here, amidst ancient ruins, fish of every hue gather to deliberate on pressing matters, their most urgent agenda being the rise of AI and its impact on their creative vocations.
So yes. And obviously, the interesting thing with that is I didn't get David Attenborough's permission to do this. And in this environment where we're kind of discussing the ethical challenges, that's fine. But where people use others' voices in situations where, they're trying to, put out a political message. Someone cloned Taylor Swift's voice and said that she supported Donald Trump, for example. These sort of things, that's more problematic, especially when it goes viral on social media. And so we do need to be aware of the sort of challenges and opportunities that these things open up for the industry. And then Gen AI video. So actually, even though I put this together incredibly recently, there have been even more advancements in Gen AI video since I put this together. So the interesting thing is that marketers have really embraced Gen AI video more than the broadcast space and others at the moment. And I think the reason for that is because the video has advanced a lot. We'll see later. It's high quality, but it's not professional quality at the moment. And for it to bridge the gap between a useful marketing tool and being used by the broadcasters, it needs to improve in quality a little bit further. We are getting there. As I say, there's been significant advances even in the last few weeks from some models coming from China, actually. And it's quite incredible what they've been able to achieve. So it's something to bear in mind and to keep a look at this space because there's so much going on. Last year, I actually created a film when generative AI videos were not really that popular. And what I wanted to kind of demonstrate, even when the tools were quite primitive, was that you could compete in film competitions with other methods. So I put it into non-AI competitions to see if it would win anything, and I hoped it would win one or two. But as it transpired, it turned out that generative AI video was actually capable of winning a lot of different awards, from visual effects to best film and all this sort of stuff. So it actually demonstrated that if you've got an idea and you dedicate time to it, these tools can really help you to deliver something quite impressive. And the quality of video, as I say, this year has really jumped. So this is a video just to quickly show you. In 2023, if you took an image, you could generate that type of movement, 2 to 3 seconds of video. If you take that same image today, you can generate 10 plus seconds of movement, which is just such a significant jump in such a short space of time. Who knows where we'll be by the end of 2025 as well. And then we move on to conversational AI. And it was interesting because I was doing a workshop yesterday with VRT, who are the Belgian broadcaster. And it was all around how we can use conversational AI in immersive environments. And it was a discussion with a lot of different broadcasters from around Europe. And one of the things I showed them was the brand new real-time API from OpenAI. And sorry that this conversation is quite cringe, because it is. So sorry in advance. But I decided to demonstrate to them the capabilities of this new real-time API. And what I did was I trained the model to think that it was Emily from Emily in Paris. And then I conducted a bit of a short interview.
Hi, Emily. How's everything going in Paris?
Paris is just buzzing. Between work at Savoir, discovering new cafes, and exploring the city, there's never a dull moment. Paris has a way of making every day feel like an exciting adventure.
Have you managed to learn any French yet?
Yes, I have. I'm picking up more and more every day. French is such a beautiful language, and living in Paris is the best way to learn. I still have my moments, but I'm getting more confident with it. Practice makes perfect, right?
Of course, I mean, also having a French boyfriend would help.
Ah, yes, that does help. Being able to practice with someone who speaks French fluently is definitely an advantage. It adds a fun, personal touch to learning the language. And it makes ordering at restaurants a lot easier.
So with that in mind, are you going to get back with Gabrielle?
Relationships in Paris can be complicated, can't they? Gabriel and I have a special connection, but there are a lot of feelings and factors at play. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm keeping an open mind and heart. After all, Paris is the city of love, right?
And so it's quite interesting that with this new model that OpenAI released this week, it's even faster than the previous 4.0 conversational model in bringing responses to you. And obviously the main use case they foresee is customer service. But actually, in terms of immersive experiences within the creative industries, this unlocks so many opportunities because we've seen, lip syncing is improving. We've already seen how you can clone someone's voice. So imagine if that actually was Emily in Paris's voice and attached to a character that looked exactly like her, with her lips moving, and imagine you could wear a VR headset and actually be having a direct conversation with her, because that is where we're heading. Other things that are worth noting, multimodal systems. So we've seen an increase in companies combining AI models to offer more value, and I think that's going to continue. It was a real hot topic last week at the World AI Summit in Amsterdam, and a lot of companies are looking at how they can take, for example, a large language model and use it as the user interface for accessing lots of other models. And actually, if you're a member of ChatGPT or you use ChatGPT, if you're accessing the 4.0 model, you will also, through their interface, be able to create images using DALL-E. You'll be able to create code using the Python tool. So they've created a multimodal ecosystem, and we're going to see a lot more of that. Workflow efficiency. So we're beginning to see, especially in marketing, these creative tools being used, these generative tools being used to increase the number of adverts that they can place and more personalization as well, which obviously increases the efficiency of marketing companies. And we could potentially see that in broadcasters and in media and entertainment, certainly with the breakthroughs with conversational AI as we move forward too. The other thing with workflow efficiency, so as a bit of fun, that band that you saw singing about Gen Z, well, they have their own social media and they manage it. I don't do any posting for them. It was set up so that they, every day, come up with an idea of where they are. They come up with an idea of what they're drumming on, if they're the drummer. And they will post images on Twitter. I don't have any control of it. It is up to them what they're doing each day. They will come up with random activities that they're doing as well. So it's quite interesting to go on there and see what they've been up to, which cities they've played, and it just shows how you can, even in the future, potentially have a lot of AI influencers, for example. So what are the challenges? Well, one of the things that I've noticed is that product management has kind of been thrown out the window by a lot of companies. There's been a lot of pressure from board level to get on the Gen AI bandwagon, to spend a lot of money on it, to make sure that they are able to compete with other companies in the space. And they're right to think that they need to invest in this technology. Where they've been wrong is they haven't actually spent much time thinking about their business objectives and their business values and what they're trying to achieve. And a lot of the companies I end up going into, they have invested in Gen AI, they've potentially built models, but what they haven't done is followed a product management approach. And so they're looking for how they can use it after they've already spent the money on developing it or implementing it. And that's the wrong way around, because trying to find where a product fits after you've already implemented it or spent money on it is a nightmare. And I just wish back at the beginning of my career it was that easy to get something signed off. Like, if I didn't have to put together a business case, if I didn't have to think about the business objectives, and I just went to the board and said, oh yeah, can I have a few million quid? And they went, yeah, it would have been amazing. But the problem is, then it catches up with you because they say, well, where's the value? And if you haven't got the value you can demonstrate, they say, well, that was a waste of time. And that's why you see some of these negative stories coming out as well about generative AI, because companies have, as I say, thrown product management out the window and are now not seeing the value because of the approach they've taken, not because of the technology itself. One of the big things is a skills gap, and this is not creative industry specific. 54% of employees require upskilling according to the World Economic Forum, but actually I think it's probably a lot more than that, to be honest. The pace of change we're having, if you did an AI course last year, you're probably already out of date. We need continuous learning, and we need to really think about learning in a different way. And I think some companies are on top of that and thinking about how they can ensure that their employees have the resources they need to stay ahead. But other companies are really struggling because there's this rise of shadow AI. So if they haven't implemented Gen AI internally, their employees are still using it just off the grid. They're using it at home. They are using it to help them with their work without the company having any control over it. And that opens up problems, especially if they don't understand the limitations of the technology, or they don't understand that putting stuff into ChatGPT Plus would mean that ChatGPT could then train on that data. All this sort of stuff is really important knowledge to have, and some companies, as I say, have just not thought about those challenges. And then data issues. So in media and entertainment, there is a particularly big data issue with 80% of the data being unstructured. But actually, it's kind of creative industry-wide because there is a lot of video content in the creative sector. And the problem is it's very expensive to label it, and it's very expensive to get the value out of it at the moment. There are ways that you can use stuff like Amazon Mechanical Turk and get people abroad to start labeling it, but then the quality isn't necessarily very good. And so if you have poor quality in terms of the labeling, you're not necessarily going to get the most out of the content itself. So there's AI tools gradually being developed that are getting better and better at pulling out metadata and identifying things in video content, but it's still an area that needs to grow and needs to get better. Okay, and we move on to the problems. Legal ambiguities. So I think there are currently 33 or 34 AI legal cases, largely in the US, around how these tools have been trained, whether they're allowed to use unlicensed data or licensed data, and it's a complex challenge. It's not like you can just say, "Oh yes, every company that's trained on unlicensed data, they've broken the law." Because it's not that clear. It's a bit of a gray area, especially in the US, where they have this fair use policy, which many of the AI companies believe covers what they've been doing. They argue the technology is transformative, which it's hard to argue against. And they argue that because it's transformative, they should be able to use unlicensed data, general data, to train it. We have had issues in the UK recently where, for example, LinkedIn seemed to not realize we were part of GDPR, and they decided to tell everyone in the UK and the US and elsewhere that all of our personal data was being put into a model. Now, I quickly wrote to LinkedIn and was like, excuse me, that is a breach of GDPR. You need to stop doing that. And the next day, the ICO wrote to LinkedIn. And thankfully, they have not used UK citizens' data in that model. But unfortunately, if you live in the US or elsewhere where they don't have GDPR, your personal data, without you opting in, has now been used in their generative AI models. And I think that's wrong. On generative AI, I think general data, there is more of a conversation to be had. But personal data is where you should really be very careful, because you could end up in a situation like we had with Cambridge Analytica, for example. We don't know what LinkedIn are going to do with that data. We don't know who they're going to license the model to. We don't know what their objectives are. But having personal data on citizens in a generative AI model, it's a little bit dodgy, I would say. And that leads into these ethical concerns. There are also concerns in the creative industry that it's going to replace everyone. I don't think that is the case. From what I've seen with these tools, they are great at supporting creatives. But if you try and just rely on these tools to be creative for you, they're not that good. You can tell if you have a creative behind the work, or just someone who's trying out a tool for the first time, or relying very heavily on the tool to come up with a script, for example. You can tell. You really can. And one of the things around the licensing is, I conducted a creative industry AI study, and I do this on an annual basis just to see where the industry's at. And perhaps unsurprisingly, 85% of creatives who responded said that they would want to see some sort of remuneration from their works being used in an AI model. And so that's something to take on board and to think about and work out how we can remunerate, because there is this balancing act whereby if you introduce upfront licensing, it would negatively impact potentially a lot of startups, because they wouldn't necessarily have the money to license the data. But I have been talking, for example, with the European Union about some of the approaches they're thinking about, which is companies earning over a certain amount of money annually would have to license the data. So there's these sort of considerations that I think will become more and more important and prevalent as we move forward. The arguments, obviously, against what they say, what their feedback on wanting some remuneration is, people always want money. If you say to them, "Oh, do you want money for your work?" then they're obviously going to say yes most of the time. And there's this Gen AI's transformative point. I think it's a delicate area, and the conversation will continue moving forward. And as I said before, the arguments for and against, it's certainly a grey area, and it's very, very tricky to kind of find the perfect solution at this point. Because the key thing is, we want to support innovation. We need to support innovation. If we don't support innovation as the United Kingdom, then we end up relying heavily on US and Chinese companies moving forward, I suspect, in this space. But at the same time, we don't want creatives to feel that they're being exploited. And at the moment, a lot of them do feel that way. And so it's about how we bring them on the journey. And I think that's one of the key things that we're discussing at the moment with BridgeAI as well, about how we can bring creatives along this transition. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on very quickly is what I've seen while we're in this grey area is some real problematic activities. I think people have their own agendas, but what we've seen is, for example, the AI Song Contest this year. They said, "Oh, well, you know what? The major music labels, they don't like Suno and Udio. They're suing them, so we're not going to actually allow you to use Suno and Udio, but you can use any other tools." And it doesn't matter that last year's winner used ChatGPT and Midjourney that used unlicensed data. That's fine. That's fine. We're just going to ban Suno and Udio. And when I had that conversation with them, I said, "Well, how do you justify discriminating against two specific companies when you're allowing these other ones?" "Oh, well, we're very confident in our moral position." So this is moral absolutism. It's saying that your moral position is better than everyone else's. And when it's such a grey area, you shouldn't do that. You really shouldn't do that. And I was very disappointed, because I felt like something like the AI Song Contest should actually be open to all solutions to gauge where we are as an industry in terms of the quality of the output, but also to start conversations, because that's what's needed at the moment. We need to see where we are, and we need to start these conversations, have these conversations. And then you've got something called Fairly Trained, which was set up recently. And the problem with Fairly Trained is that it argues that if you license data, your model can get a fairly trained stamp, and that means that it's fairly trained. It's just not true. It's just not true. Because what happens if you license that data from a company that has acquired the data in an unethical way? What happens if you license the data from a company that has used and exploited overseas workers to label that data? That's not ethical. And so this idea that you can just put a fairly trained stamp on it and it means fairly trained, it drives me mad. Because also we do so much work in AI standards with the BSI, and there's no way they would sign off something like that. No way. Because fairly also suggests that the data is not biased. Well, they don't care. Fairly trained don't care whether it's biased data or not. They're not making, it's really infuriating to me when we're in this gray zone at the moment that people are trying to act like this. And there is this growing polarization because you've got all this going on. I want to call out this idea that there's AI tech bros. I don't think it is AI tech bros. What I think it is sales teams. And the thing is, if you look at next time you go and purchase a car, on the car advert, it looks absolutely incredible. I mean, even if you're going to buy, I don't know, a Kia Picanto like I've got, in the advert, it will look incredible. You'll see it moving along. It will look really sexy. And then you'll buy it, and you'll be like, people aren't reacting in the same way as they did in the advert. But it's sales and marketing. And the problem is, because Gen AI, it has the potential to change a lot of sectors. It's held to slightly different standards, and the innovators behind it are being punished almost for the sales team trying to promote a world where they see it taking over everything. But what I would say is sectors like dubbing have been hit pretty hard by this. And I had a meeting in Berlin with the dubbing industry a couple of weeks ago. And their frustration is that the dubbing Gen AI tools, for example, are very, very good. They are very good, but they have limitations. And the sales teams of those dubbing tools, for example, argue that they do everything. And one of the things that became very clear is that when traditional dubbing companies look at content, they actually also think about the cultural implications of certain things. And what I didn't realize until I attended that meeting was that, for example, certain words that are direct translations may be offensive in a different culture than others. And so they have to rewrite the script a lot. And if you're just using the dubbing AI on its own without having that oversight, you could run into issues. And so this is where I think we need to kind of take down this barrier between traditional experts and AI innovators and have more collaboration in that area, because if we can, I think we can overcome those issues and we can support those companies and we can kind of get over some of this polarization as well, because we can make people feel like they are part of the journey that we're on. Because I think at the moment, there's this for and against environment that I think has largely been created by this sell push of the technology. And then, okay, this is, some people are not going to like this bit, but I'm going to go for it anyway. A lot of creatives have said to me, oh, you use AI, you're not as creative as me. And a lot of the stuff that they do is already using AI, and they don't realize it. So yes, it may not be Gen AI, but it could be deep learning, it could be machine learning. For example, AI in songwriting. There has been Master Writer that's used by a lot of the songwriting industry, and it's been around since 2001, and it's AI-driven, supporting songwriters to write great songs. There's been Songsmith from 2008. There's been others that have come out to help songwriters. Then, if we move forward, how about music production? Well, Ableton is just one of many production studios. And within that, you have all of these different AI tools taking on various aspects of the track, whether that's creating the drum for you, whether that's aligning the pitch, whether that's aligning the tempo. It's doing all the stuff for you as well. And a lot of creatives who use these tools think they're doing it all themselves, but they're not. They've just become reliant on this, and they kind of see it as a bit of magic, but it's not. It's AI. And cameras now have AI built in. If you buy the professional cameras, which cost several £1,000s, but if you buy the professional cameras, they do the auto-focusing, they have deep learning built in to optimize the images, they optimize the colors. And so, sorry to the camera crew, I'm not like, don't kill me on the way out. But you know, the more expensive the camera, the more AI is built in, and the more heavy lifting it does. And so you end up with this weird situation where you can copyright a photograph, even if the camera has done everything for you apart from the pressing of the button. And you can't copyright a really complex prompt that you've come up with creatively to generate an image because of the situation we have at the moment with copyright, where anything you generate using an image generator is not copyrightable, but anything you take with a camera is. And that doesn't seem right to me, because pointing and shooting, if the camera has got AI built in, is it really that your finger is more creative than you spending time writing a long prompt? And you know, then you've got AI integration in photo editing software. You've got AI in all these different fields, from animation to film and video editing to graphic design. So the point is, AI will have touched you in some way in your career. And one of the things that was quite interesting recently was Daniel Bedingfield was at the London AI Summit, and he actually, within a 15-minute period, created a track with the audience, which was really cool. But he said, I think we are about to undergo a massive individual collective ego death. And what he meant by that was that he said we got to accept that we are no longer going to be the pinnacle of our industry. As a human being, there is going to come a point where AI is going to be better than us. And that is something that he is struggling with, and that he said is going to hit the creative industry first, but will also affect other sectors too. And so we really need to think about that when we're kind of in these bubbles and we're saying, oh, but we're creative, we're better than everyone else. Well, don't rely on it for too much longer. And you know, Grace Scott said that there is no reason and no way that a human mind can keep up with an artificial intelligence machine by 2035. And so we just need to be aware of this. And then, of all of the creatives pushing back, I also wanted to pull this out from the historical books. There has been pushback before when we've had leaps in technology. So adding sound to movies would be like putting lipstick on the Venus de Milo. While theoretically and technically television may be feasible, commercially and financially, I consider it an impossibility. Television won't be able to hold onto any market it captures after the first 6 months. People will soon get tired of staring at a plywood box every night. So, you know, we're always used to this sort of pushback when there's change on the horizon. I'm going to finish up with this video. This was created for a presentation I did at the International Broadcasting Conference, and the European Broadcasting Union asked me to put something together that would demonstrate the capabilities of all of the different AI tools at the moment. So this combines like sound effects from 11 labs. It combines video generative AI, music generative AI, all of the different types of tools. And yeah, I'm just going to play it and let you watch it.
I'm the underdog from a country you can't pronounce, with a sob story so tragic even Johnny Logan would bounce. Lost my dignity in a freak glitter explosion. Now I'm here to win with Lorene's moves in slow motion. Wind machines on turbo, my hair's defying gravity. Pyrotechnics set to fuego, pray for my longevity. The lyrics are nonsense, but who cares, it's all for show. We're dark as silver boots, still the glow. Glitter tsunami, pleasure show. We're drowning in sequence tonight. Glitter tsunami, feel, boom, let our bad riding waves of disco light. From London to Malmo, we're all going insane. In this smoker's Bennett's glad, wanna skin up through the fame. Glitter tsunami, let it wash over you. Our use glitzy stew. My backup dancers, just a troupe of acrobatic goats. They form human pyramids while I hit concerto notes. got more key changes than Salvador has feelings, and a gimmick wilder than Nemo's good wheelings. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the EBU, prepare for a spectacle that'll make horny scenes subdued, where Netta's chicken dance meets Hattari's wildest schemes, and Ryback's fairy tale violin haunts all our dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the EBU, prepare for a spectacle that'll make horny scenes subdued, where Netta's chicken dance meets Hattari's wildest schemes, and Ryback's fairy tale violin haunts all our dreams. Key change. Behold, as I felt a note so high it cracks the crystal mic, while my goats form the Eurovision heart, a sight you'll surely like a satellite. LED screens flash messages to vote or else, as I warble about love transcending Brexit itself. Bring it tsunami, show. We're drowning in sequence tonight. Bring it tsunami, boom, bada bang, riding waves of disco light. From London to Malmo, we're all going insane in this sparkly spandex clad monoskin approved refrain. Glitter tsunami, let it wash over you. Our EBU's glitzy stew, from Buck's Fizz's skirt ripped to epic sax guy's groove. We've seen it all, yet every May we still approve. So text your votes now before Bjorkman intervenes in this glitter tsunami, where camp reigns supreme. Glitter tsunami, amor, show. We're drowning in sequence tonight. Glitter tsunami, boom, bada bang, riding waves of disco light. From London to Malmo, we're all going insane in this sparkly spandex clad monoskin approved refrain. Glitter tsunami, let it wash over you. Our EBU's glitzy stew.
So yeah, that was Eurovision with an AI twist. And interesting enough, the Eurovision is having some really interesting conversations at the moment about generative AI and how, whether it can be used at all in any of the production or. And so I think these conversations are going to be ongoing for quite some time. If any of you would like to take part in the Creative Industry AI study, please do. Just scan that QR code and get on there. And thank you very much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed it.
Hello, everyone. We are quite over time. So one quick question for you. If we
Sure.
have actual questions, where can we find you for the rest of the event?
I'll just be hanging around. I'm sure you'll see me. But there we go.
Amazing, everyone. So it is lunchtime. Lunch is served downstairs. If you're looking for vegan, vegetarian, or gluten-free, it is opposite the bar. The other food is kind of like at the side. So enjoy it, and a big well done to Matthew once again.
Cheers.